Hello there. I'm Kate Holcomb, and I want to show you my favorite free digital floor planner software. This is floorplanner.com, and they offer great paid versions, but they also have this free version that anyone can use. I am using it here to show you guys how to set up your first project. So you only get to have one project within floorplanner.com as part of the free plan. So what you can do is set up your first project, name it whatever it is you want to name it, and let's just start that project. So we want an empty plan, and we are going to start by drawing a room. So we've already taken measurements of our space, or maybe we're building a home and we have the measurements, or we're renovating a home and we have the measurements. But we click draw room and we start in one corner, and we are just going to click and drag out to create a room the size of the one that we need to plan. So I am watching these numbers on the bottom to kind of come up with the width and length of the room. About 12 by 21 is the room that we're going for. And you can always click and drag the walls to change the length or width once you have gotten the room set. Now we want to add windows and doors. So in my particular house, we have cased openings, and that's what this little image is here. So you just click it once and drag it right on over. Ours are wider than this, and so you can either click on the object and drag to change the dimensions, and you can watch those numbers there, 3.37, 310. If ours are about 4 feet wide, then I'm going to leave that there. Another way you can change the size is to click on the object and then go to the settings over here on the left. And so you can just change that to 48 inches and then hit enter, and there we go. Now we have two of these doors, so I am going to highlight that object by clicking on it, and then I'm going to tap this duplicate button, that little stack of papers, and it's about 1.5 feet from the right wall. So I'm going to drag that there. Now we have a few windows. So for furniture arranging, you don't have to be uber precise with your measurements unless you're having something, custom made or custom fit. But you definitely want to get, within a few inches, I would say at least, of accuracy. Okay, so we're going to duplicate our windows, and we have 4 of these around the room. It's about 2.5 feet from that corner, and then over here, duplicate, and it's centered, so right about there. And there you have it. That's our room. Now we do have one more structural element, and that is a fireplace. So I am going to click and drag this here. The hearth kind of is in the floor plan, and then the chimney bit is built outside of the room. So that's how it sits in our house. And I will leave that there. Now it's time to start playing around with furniture. So we're going to go over here to the Objects tab, and you can either click on the rooms or just search. And let's look for a sofa. So if I'm in the beginning stages of the process and I simply want to kind of play around with furnishings, then it doesn't really matter what size we pick, what the style of the sofa is. This particular one does look quite narrow, so I'm going to double click on it and go to the settings, and I can see that it is only 30 inches deep, and I know I want a deep, comfy sofa that's going to be closer to 40 inches deep and probably about 85 inches wide. So a much squatter sofa. If you don't know the size, you might just do a quick Google search or look around at sofas that you like the look of, and get those measurements to kind of start playing around with them. Okay, so if we put the sofa on this side of the room, there's just not a whole lot of wall space in our living room for a TV. It's basically got to go over the fireplace or against this wall over here. So if we were going to do that, let's say we have like a TV console of some sort that we're going to put over here. Again, the exact style doesn't really matter yet. Most people are inclined to pull the furnishings against the walls, but because this is such a long, narrow room, in order to keep the seating conversational, we're going to keep them a bit closer. Now I'd like to see a couple of club chairs in this space. And again, I happen to know that this club chair is pretty small. Oh, it's not too bad actually. I'm going to make it a little bit deeper. I'm tall. I like deep seating. So let's see what two of those look like. And then we have, see how that works. So you may have noticed in the PDF I shared, we want to keep about 36 inches between elements in the room for foot traffic. And so this is a really narrow, pretty tight space. But that's probably enough, I would say. We could look at like narrower consoles if we wanted to. And then let's say we need a coffee table. Just grab one to kind of play around with here if we did it this way. And in this space, there's just kind of dead space when we bring the furniture in. We have this dead space behind the sofa and behind the chairs. We happen to have a piano that we inherited that goes right here. And so that I know works there. Another thing you could do is a console table behind the sofa. Perhaps to fill that space, it could have a pair of lamps. This is still kind of dead space. We have great light in here, so I would use it for plants. Another option would be to do a pair of bookshelves. I'm just going to use these boxes to indicate bookshelves that could go on either side of that window. So there you have it. Now let's say you wanted to play around with an alternative scenario. We are going to move this floor plan over a little bit to give us empty space. I'm going to hold down the shift key and click with my mouse and drag to highlight all of those things. I'm going to duplicate them and bring them right over here, and I have a whole duplicate set to play around with. Like, let's say I don't want to forget this scenario. Let's say, what would happen if instead of a sofa, we did a sectional? I will also say it is much easier to work with floor planning type softwares when you have a mouse to work with. I don't have one right now with me, so I'm using the trackpad on my laptop, and it makes things a little bit trickier. I'm just going to type in sectional and see what comes up. That's kind of a pretty modestly sized sectional, so we'll see if that type of thing could possibly work here. Now I'd like to see a couple of club chairs in this space. And again, I happen to know that this club chair is pretty small. Oh, it's not too bad actually. I'm going to make it a little bit deeper. I'm tall. I like deep seating. So let's see what two of those look like. And then we have, see how that works. So you may have noticed in the PDF I shared, we want to keep about 36 inches between elements in the room for foot traffic. And so this is a really narrow, pretty tight space. But that's probably enough, I would say. We could look at, let's move our console table out of the way. I'm going to highlight the sofa and click that little blue arc to rotate things. Let's move our console table. So I hope this gives you a great idea of how to play around with furniture arrangements with this easyfloorplanner.com. I will also say another really cool function is this 3D button in the top right corner. Because my computer is kind of bogging down a little bit, I think my battery is close to dying. It may not work great, but if you click that 3D button, it's going to show us what the furniture looks like in real time or in the space. And what I can see is that this feels too cramped over here. So I need to kind of revisit that idea. So I hope that has been helpful. And please let me know if you have any questions. And I'd love to see what kind of floor plans you come up with.